So I'm going to be trying something new. Welcome to Half-Likes. This is my new series that aims to shine a spotlight on and review the hundreds, if not thousands of games that were, even a little, inspired by Valve Software's former flagship series, Half-Life. Today is our introductory episode where we will discuss something I've been witnessing for a while now. Bethesda-Zenimax, the publishing marketing arm of the Elder Scrolls and Fallout game designer Bethesda Softworks, and parent company to such groups as id Software and Arcane, seem to be picking up where Valve is leaving off. It seems that following the absolute drop-off in single-player experience from Valve Software, a company that was previously well known for their monumental game-changing experience, Bethesda-Zenimax slowly took up the garb to fill the hole left. Now, whether you like it or not, single-player experiences are not the best way of making money in the video game market anymore. In a move most could attribute to Valve, the move away from, quote, games as a product to games as a service has opened the door for cheap or sometimes free-to-play multiplayer games that make their income on frequent pay-and-updates or events and cosmetic changes and additions sold through either a store or randomly given out through a loot box. Valve, in modern day, holds CSGO, Dota 2, and TF2, three incredibly successful multiplayer services, and since the release of Portal 2 in 2011, their last single-player experience to date, these are the titles Valve has released and continued to maintain in the public eye. In the interim, Bethesda-Zenimax has released or published Skyrim, Rage, Dishonored, Elder Scrolls Online, Wolfenstein: The New Order, The Evil Within, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, Fallout Shelter, Fallout 4, Doom 2016, Dishonored 2, Prey 2017, Dishonored: Death of the Outsider, The Evil Within 2, Wolfenstein 2, and they have announced Rage 2 and Fallout 76. Quake Champions is also in open beta, and they also ported Skyrim and Fallout 4 to VR, as well as making the exclusive VR title Doom VFR. Oh, and in that time, they also released their own card game, Elder Scrolls Legends. I can already hear the major arguments I will face in a comparison like this. Bethesda-Zenimax is a publisher, not a game developer, and that's true. However, Valve Software is so flush with cash that if they wanted, they could acquire hundreds of the smallerish game development studios in the PC market space and publish their work under the Valve banner, much like they already are within the Valley of Gods and like they have with Left 4 Dead 1. Call me crazy, but I can picture a meeting following the release of Portal 2 where ZeniMax went out to all of their subsidiaries and asked what their favorite parts of Half-Life 2 was, and then just made them make a game based on that part. Machine Games loved the gunplay and scripted scenes to tell stories, Tango loved Ravenholm, Arcane loved City 17, and, well, Half-Life 1, and id is id. They gave Valve their start. The single-player games released by these subsidiaries are always shooters and always seem to take inspiration from Half-Life 2, and which is actually depressing to imagine, because what if the people that made the old Half-Life games continued to make single-player games? What would they look like? Well, they would look like Prey, Dishonored, and Doom, because the people that left over the last 10 years went to other companies, and they moved to companies doing things they wanted to work on. The creator of City 17's art style is responsible for the look and art style of Dishonored, for example. Like said earlier, id Software is largely responsible for early Valve making it in the first place, allowing Gabe Newell to use the Quake engine for their first title released, Half-Life. Arcane actually worked on a Half-Life game of their own titled Return to Ravenholm from 2007 until 2009, and when Valve canceled it, they started work on a story-based multiplayer FPS called The Crossing, worked in conjunction with Valve, which Valve then canceled. The recently acquired Escalation Studios is responsible for Pastime, the TF2 game mode created in conjunction with Valve. Machine Games, formed by many key members of Starbreeze Studios, has worked with Valve a few times in the past through the Starbreeze acquired Overkill through the title Payday 2. The only one I can't seem to draw comparisons from is Bethesda Game Studios, as most of their own work seems to be their own. The Save Player One marketing campaign is a great example of Bethesda picking up where the other companies have left off and then laughing about it. Openly laughing at the fact that aside from them, no other major AAA publisher and developer are creating majority single-player experiences, and how they fill that role. When a company creates so many games a year, each one is not going to be a super masterpiece. A fear I've been explained by a few Valve people. However, while Valve may continually be developing games in silent only to have about 98% of the work go completely unpublished and canceled due to it not being, quote, fucking incredible, Bethesda is publishing games like Doom 2016 or Prey 2017. Not perfect games by any stretch of the imagination, but incredibly valuable games in terms of Valve's favorite thing, data. Doom taught that the gameplay should come first, and if stuck in development, boiling a popular concept to its most basic parts can result in incredible fun. Prey taught how much value is in the name of the game, regardless of how well a genre many have been starved of is being represented. The title of that game needs to be representative of the product, especially if people people are familiar with the title you're using. Fallout 4 taught that oversimplification of concepts very much exists, and making parts of a game a certain way only through perceived obligation is always worse than just making the game you want to make. Another idea I want to touch on is a term I came up with called shelf value. I'm a collector of video games. Not only that, I'm a collector of plastic crap I don't need. I love finding games I enjoy and then finding merchandise that represents items from the game's world in the real world. For the longest time, most of the stuff that I have come by was from Valve, things like crowbars, head crabs, portal guns, engineer wrenches, etc. Now, while Valve merch does continue to release, the modern stuff shines a light on two issues. One, Valve loves to autonomize everything possible, and if they can make a community do a job an employee was once doing, they will make that happen. So all merch is sold on a third-party site, and mostly created by community members voted on through the Steam Workshop, much like CSGO maps and TF2 hats. Two, most of the merch in general is of games Valve made years ago. I mean, obviously that could be said of anything Valve is currently selling, as CSGO was released in beta in 2011? But most of the merch comes from games like Half-Life, Portal, Left 4 Dead, etc. And it gives the impression that Valve may be riding out the waves of love from yesteryear as much as possible. Due to all of this, I'm finding that most of my favorite recent purchases are of Bethesda games, and I'm finding that my shelves are quickly being filled with items from those worlds, not Valve. Regardless of how you feel about the games, wouldn't you like a BJ Blazkowicz action figure made to look like you bought it in the store of the game's alternate universe? Wouldn't you like some Vault Boy bobbleheads? Those are items from game series that have had new releases in the last few years, and the same cannot be said about Valve. I'm sure you understand where I'm going with all of this. I obviously want an excuse to talk about something that isn't Valve once in a while, and I also want to be able to show how not only the spirit of a series like Half-Life still is being carried on, regardless of how the owner may feel, but more importantly, how many of the original creators moved on to other companies. Many of them, the ones we are discussing today. The first season of Half-Life will focus on the Bethesda-Zenimax library since the release of Portal 2, and we will be starting with Prey 2017, the closest thing to Half-Life I have played in a long time. I hope to see you there. And thank you very much for watching. As you know, I have a Patreon, and all my supporters are now scrolling across your screen. Send them all your love, send them all your thanks. Because of them, this video was able to be made. And of course, the E3 2013s, the top tier donators, have given me a couple messages that I need to read. I promise I'll buy my girl some ice cream after recording this video. I really appreciate the effort you put into all of your videos. They seem professionally done. My personal favorites are the community catch-ups. Best of luck to you and Electra. I've been very disappointed in the amount of art I've been producing. That is to say, none. Misinformation and incompetence are two of my least favorite things, and I am ever grateful for VNN's commitment to defying and discussing both. Thanks to my patrons, and thanks to everybody watching. You don't have to feel bad about not supporting, it doesn't matter. I love that you're watching anyways, and I hope you have a good day. I love you. Adios.